Pleasant morning to you all. The topic for today's discussion is nutrition. Nutrition, the term itself is very important. You already know it is concerned with the word nutrients. Nutrition is the process of intake of nutrients which include organic and inorganic chemical compounds. These nutrients are very important for our healthy body. Now we include it in our diet. Now the question arises, what is diet? The food that we or the meal that we take is called as diet, and when that diet contains the essential nutrients in adequate proportion, it is called a balanced diet. So what is a balanced diet? A diet which contains the essential nutrients in adequate proportion. Now what is essential nutrients means? It means carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Though these form the important class of nutrients, yet a diet should also contain water and roughage. They do not provide any energy or materials for our growth and development, but yet they form an important part of our diet. That is roughage, also called as fibers or cellulose, and water. We shall discuss one by one the different class of nutrients. The first important class of nutrient is carbohydrate. Clear? Now carbohydrate in our diet, this forms an important nutrient. Now first of all, we will discuss about its chemical composition. Carbohydrate, that means it contains the elements carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in the ratio 1:2:1. Let me explain you. Now when we talk about the simplest carbohydrate, glucose. What is glucose? C6H12O6. Clear? This is carbohydrate containing carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in the ratio 1:2:1. Clear? Now this carbohydrate are of three types according to the number of saccharide units. What is saccharide unit? Saccharide unit means sugars. Clear? So accordingly, depending upon the number of saccharide units or sugar units, carbohydrate is grouped into monosaccharide, disaccharide and polysaccharides. Disaccharides and polysaccharides. Clear? Now one by one we shall discuss. When we talk about monosaccharides, mono means one. Clear? So these are the simplest carbohydrate and they contain only one saccharide unit. Saccharide, as I have told, sugar unit. Clear? They do not require any digestion. That means they decompose directly into carbon dioxide and water. Examples are glucose. You find that we already know glucose is an instant source of energy. That's why you find that the patients are given the glucose, that is which is readily breaks up into carbon dioxide and water. Got it? And energy. That energy is required for the different metabolic processes taking place inside our body. So monosaccharide means one saccharide unit. Examples are glucose, fructose, clear, and galactose. Disaccharide, di means two. Clear? It is also referred as oligosaccharides. So such carbohydrate which have more than one saccharide unit, that is 2 to 10 saccharide unit, those are called as disaccharides or oligosaccharides. Let me give you one example. Like suppose disaccharide, the example is sucrose. Sucrose is found in the food item like this cane sugar, that is sugar cane. So sucrose is made up of one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. So when we intake sucrose, it is broken down into glucose and fructose. Clear? Then we take maltose, malt. It contains 2 molecules of glucose. Clear? Then we talk about lactose. It is present in milk. It breaks down into glucose and galactose. So you find that when we talk about disaccharide means what? It contains more than one saccharide unit. So it requires digestion. Got it? It breaks down into monosaccharides and finally oxidizes to give energy. Now next we come to polysaccharide. Poly means many. Clear? Disaccharides have the formula that is C12H22O10, O11. Got it? Now when we talk about polysaccharides, what are polysaccharides? These are made up of many saccharides unit. Poly means many, so they contain more than 10 saccharide unit. Got it? Now when we talk about polysaccharides, they are not soluble in water. But when we talk about monosaccharides and disaccharides, they are soluble. When we talk about polysaccharides, the best example is starch found in plants. We know that during the process of photosynthesis, the sugar that is manufactured by the plants in the leaves, that is converted into, that is starch and stored. Clear? Then we have the cell wall. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. That is also an example of polysaccharides. Then when we talk about in the animal cell, we have glycogen. That is also an example of polysaccharide. In fungi, the cell wall is made up of chitin. So all these are examples of polysaccharides. Clear? So when we talk about the carbohydrate, what is its most important function? To provide energy. Clear? They are found in the sources of cereal groups like wheat, rice, maize, potato, etc. So they are provide maximum amount of energy. Next we have the second class of nutrient in a balanced diet, that is fats. What are fats? Fats also are essential nutrient. Though required in the diet in small amount, they provide more energy than the carbohydrate. When fats are broken down, they break down into fatty acid and glycerol. Clear? Now with these fats, they are insoluble in water but soluble in organic solvents. And as I have said, not only they provide more energy, they are very important. That is, they help in preventing heat loss and also are protective in function. Fat stores under our skin, provides protection as well as prevents heat loss. Next important class of nutrient is proteins. Now what are proteins? These are made up of polymers of amino acids. That means what? These proteins, carbohydrates, fats, these are macromolecules, that is macro organic compounds. They are made up of simple that is organic elements. So fats, like I said, they also contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. And when we talk about proteins, as I said, these are made up of polymers of amino acids. That means many amino acids molecules are joined together or linked together by peptide bond. When we talk about disaccharides or polysaccharides, the carbohydrate, the saccharide unit molecule are linked together by glycosidic bond. As for your syllabus, these are not required, but just for your information, I'm just saying that the amino acids are linked together by peptide bond, whereas the that is in the carbohydrate, they are linked together by glycosidic bonds. Now when we talk about proteins, they are very important because apart from carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, the most important element is nitrogen. Clear? So it is equally important both for all the living organisms, whereas in some proteins you have sulfur and phosphorus also as a constituent. Now, when we talk about proteins, they are important for the growth and development, repair of damaged and worn out tissues. They are protective in function also. Blood contains proteins, like you have then we have the antibodies. They are made up of proteins. Hormones, some of the hormones are made up of proteins. When we talk about enzymes, which are required for every metabolic chemical reactions taking places within our body, that enzyme is made up of proteins. So proteins play a very important role in our body. Then we have a term called as protein energy malnutrition, or PEM. Now what happens if our diet should contain all important class of nutrients, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Besides this, water and roughage as I discussed. But what happens when a individual or a person suffers from the deficiency of protein, energy and carbohydrate in the diet? He or she suffers from a condition called as protein energy malnutrition, in short form PEM. It generally affects children of young age. The two diseases are kwashiorkor and marasmus. Now what is kwashiorkor? It is a term that is taken from Ghana. Now in this term means that sickness of a child when the second child arrives. What happens generally, if there is less gap between the two child of then in that case what happens, baby is about 1.5 year old and the second baby arrives. So in that case the child is not given the protein rich milk of the mother. That is, the mother is unable to breastfeed the child. So in that case the child may suffer from this particular disease called as kwashiorkor. It generally affects that is when the diet has acute deficiency of protein. So what are the symptoms? It generally affects the small children about 3 to 6 years of age. It can be less than that. And then what are the symptoms? The child shows stunted growth. Stunted growth means reduced height. And then retarded growth. The skin becomes dark and scaly. Oedema, swelling up of the feet and legs. Protruded belly. Belly means the stomach is protruded out while the arms and the legs are very thin. And the child is listless, inactive. So these are some of the symptoms. So how it can be controlled or prevented? It can be cured by substituting the diet with protein rich food. In that case the diet should have milk, and then milk, soya bean, jaggery. Now what happens generally affects the children from the weaker section of the society. That means poor economic conditions. So in that case maybe the family is unable to afford the rich food of protein sources like fish and meat. So they can substitute the diet with other food items which are cost less, but they are effective. Clear? Next is marasmus. Marasmus is a disease which affects small children, that is infants up to 1 year of age. It is caused due to the deficiency of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. So in this case what happens? There's degeneration of muscles. The ribs become prominent and there are loose folds of skin. The child, the face has lines. It seems to be like an old person, wrinkles on the faces, and the ribs are very prominent, like I said. And poor mental development is also there, retarded growth, but there is no oedema. So that difference is there between kwashiorkor and marasmus. Like the symptoms like protruded belly is not there, since the child is deprived of the essential carbohydrates, fats and vitamins. So they show the symptoms. Again, it can be cured by substituting the diet with carbohydrate, fats or protein rich, mainly carbohydrates and fats. That is giving barley, and then milk in the form of soya bean if milk becomes expensive in that case. And one more thing, there should be that is a gap between the two children, that requires awareness or consciousness among the part of the mother. So that can be done with counseling and with proper knowledge and providing them awareness. Clear? So that was about the disease caused due to deficiency of proteins. Let me give you some notes of the nutrition. So generally in this case, what you will be asked, the examples of like the carbohydrates. What are the different types of carbohydrates? It is grouped into this categories also: sugar, starch and cellulose. But you will be studying in detail in the higher classes. You have to remember what are the monosaccharides, disaccharides or oligosaccharides, polysaccharides. What is the function of carbohydrate, fats and proteins. Fats, also referred as lipids, and oils. They provide more energy than the carbohydrate. Rich sources of food are butter, ghee, meat, oils, that is the vegetable oils, mustard oil, groundnut oil. Proteins made up of amino acid units. Plants also require it, they cannot take it directly, so the nitrogen is converted into nitrates and they get it from the soil. Deficiency of proteins are kwashiorkor and marasmus. I think you all have been already given the information of the concise, the topics which are not included in the syllabus. You can click on the CIC website. So whatever I had taught earlier, all those chapters are included in the syllabus. This also nutrition is a part of the syllabus. Kindly go through the question answers given at the back, and if there is any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. Kwashiorkor and marasmus are very important. 2019 it was not asked, so this may be important for you all. That's all. Stay home, be safe.